and welcome to the ET Future of Jobs Summit. We have a very interesting conversation today, a very interesting panel and a very interesting topic for the panel. We are looking at the future of mobility, which is electric vehicle. The topic as is written is under the hood, the car, the machine, the EV. And to discuss this, we have a wonderful panel in front of us. We've got Punit Goyal, who is a co-founder at BluSmart Electric Mobility. We've got Mahesh Babu, who is Chief Executive Officer at Switch Mobility. And we've got Sameer Jindal, who is EV Head and Director of Engineering at MG Motor India. Welcome all of you. Just to give a context to this conversation, I think while there is a big shift happening on the roads, I think there is an equally big shift that is happening on the jobs front as well. It's a once in a century kind of a shift that's essentially happening, right? EVs have become something of a statement now. The shift is happening now. It's the transition time. How quickly do you think this shift will materialize from internal combustion engine vehicle to EVs? You could start, Mahesh.
Okay, thank you, Ramal. I think you gave a very interesting and important topic which needs to be debated a lot. First is the shift which is happening now is unprecedented in auto industry for a century. And like I used to say in many of the forums for the last 8 years, this is inevitable. And if somebody is still debating, will this shift happen? I think we are in the past. It's inevitable because of three important reasons: of energy security of the country like India, the emission problem we have in our cities, and the new age generation of people, young people available in the country, and urbanization, what's happening in the country. So these urbanization, pollution, and energy security will drive sustainable mobility. And sustainable mobility, today we have a solution of electric mobility. Some of my colleagues like Punit will know I'm lucky to work on 8 years on this in the country. But I have worked for like 25 years plus in the auto industry. Let's look at how this transition happened. I myself is a hardcore emission combustion engineer from IC engine. That's how I started my career. Because from college, people used to aspire to be a combustion engineer because at that time, it used to be the most fascinating subject for young engineers. I'm sitting now after, let's say, 25, 30 years, and then you will look at it. The most fascinating subject today is about battery, power electronics, and sustainable mobility. So the shift has happened, and it has happened naturally. And this has happened over a period of time. And while this transition has already started, I would say a decade or two before, there are a lot of efforts which have gone in this transition, and this has not come so easy. I remember when I moved in 2015, Punit will remember when we did the first trial, nobody were believing it. We were actually running a car, India's first sedan, the Mahindra Electric Verito on Delhi. And we go by used case of one by one, and then we got convinced, and then before we went into the next step. Similarly, I was lucky to work on three-wheelers. I was now working on buses. So each used case have been understood, implemented, and India is a very unique country. You can't make anything without economic viability. You need to applicate with economic viability or aspirational things which Sameer will talk about, the cars. Either you have to make the vehicle aspirational or you have to make economically viable. So wherever commercial applications are there, we have to make it economically viable. Wherever there is personal mobility, we'll have to make it aspirational. So I think the auto industry, and particularly EV transition, have understood it. And now we are talking about at least 90+% CAGR up to 2030. Looking at a $150 billion industry by 2030. While the adoption is about 1.3% today, we are talking about 30 to 70% in some segments by 2030. And this transition is already on a move. The question is whether you are going to be part of it or you are not going to be part of it. That's the only question I feel. And it is going to change a lot of skill development at leadership level, at mid level, and also at very entry level. We need to get prepared, and I'm sure all of us are going to get prepared to this transition.
Yeah, I think Mahesh ji has put a very valid point that this transition is going to happen, and how everybody is going to be in this fair is going to be a no, long-term thing which we have to see in India. But this is a slow curve, and this we all know that this will take a lot of maturation, and we'll have to go towards the dream of 2030 being 70%, let's say, in passenger two-wheelers or three-wheelers, and 50%, let's say, in buses, trucks, maybe, I don't know, but 30% maybe in cars. But as you heard Mahindra also saying, it can reach 50% by 2030. So it all depends on how things develop. And things develop is basically a lot of factors. And all major players in the auto industry worldwide is now focused and also put all their research money into developing a skateboard platform like GM is doing Ultium. Similarly, Volvo, now Ford, Lotus, and all, they have stopped research on IC engines and focusing on electric vehicles. So this all indicators are from global. Same way, Mahindra, Tata, everybody in India, the indigenous companies also started doing extensive research and putting a lot of money into this area. So this is definitely going to develop it. Same way, like as for our parent company SAIC, which is which is the largest company in China, is putting a lot of money and maybe bringing up to 80 to 100 models in next 3 to 4 years, 5 years. Similarly, we will bring more models in India as SAIC will develop. But overall, the market, how it will develop, the question what you asked, Nirmal, is really dependent on many other things. So first is like cost of EV. It has to come down. And as you know, 50% of it depends on the battery cost. So that battery cost has to come down, develop in next 4 to 5 years. We will have to localize, we will have to bring in more big battery players in India to provide a lower cost battery. Charging infrastructure is one of the biggest thing which government also need to focus, and oil companies are doing it, private companies are doing it. At MG Motor also, we are trying to put as many as chargers as possible. Recently, we announced around 1,000 chargers in the residential area, other than the DC chargers. This was AC chargers. So DC chargers at all the MG service stations and all. And then government support and policies definitely. As you know, I used to go to China like 5 years from now, earlier. And then that time also, the China government policies were very favorable for EV. And this has led to the development what we see in China now. They are selling more than 2 lakh cars. So that has happened in not overnight. It has happened in the last 10 years and with government support and policies. So those things have to come in India. And along with government and our private industry, we can make this dream come true of our Prime Minister.
Right. Puneet, your perspective on.
I think just like Mahesh said, I think the shift to EVs is absolutely imminent. Some people will understand it early, some people will take more time to understand, but I think the time has now come for all the automobile manufacturers, because BluSmart is India's largest fully electric ride-hailing service, and we have a lot of cars of Mahindra, Tata Motors, and also MG. We firmly believe that with the rising fuel costs of CNG, petrol, and diesel, and India being a net importer of fuel, it doesn't make sense for you to drive your taxis or long distance vehicles on CNG, petrol, and diesel. It doesn't make sense, absolutely. The cost of CNG has gone up by 2x since 2016-17 Sarkar. The cost of petrol and diesel has gone up by 2.2x since 2016-17 Sarkar. It doesn't make sense if you run 200 kilometers a day, if a factory is outside your city limits, or if your transportation platform on four-wheeler being taxis or four-wheeler being buses, it doesn't make sense to run your equipments on petrol, diesel, and CNG. So we fundamentally believe that the EV shift in India will be led by public transportation platforms to begin with. And like Sameer was saying, as charging infra comes forward, like GeoBP partnered with BluSmart, they're setting up thousands of charging stations. BluSmart today has the largest number of EV fast charging stations any company has in Delhi NCR. We have 800 charging stations already installed. So we fundamentally believe that consumers will ultimately buy EVs, and we see a lot of EV penetration happening now. We see so many cars in Bombay and Delhi NCR with the green number plates. It looks very good that people are now shifting to electric. But we firmly believe that it is also the role and responsibility of manufacturers to now start manufacturing electric cars, because a lot of things that I hear from the market or from the industry is that not too many electric models are out there. People don't have options. You only have limited options from manufacturers. So when manufacturers take this bet, like Tata took a big bet, they raised money from TPG and all that, $1 billion for manufacturing electric cars. So more and more manufacturers will start manufacturing electric cars. More and more people will start buying electric cars. That's economics 101. As the scale goes up, the cost comes down. Everybody is really worried about the battery cost, but what we learn in economics is as you manufacture something more, the cost of the product anyways comes down. And the FAME subsidy is available for transportation platforms like BluSmart and etc. and etc. So and that's hardly utilized. So the FAME subsidy is for 55,000 cars. There are only about 1,850 cars registered under the FAME subsidy in Delhi NCR. So there is a massive playbook forward for ride-hailing companies, buses, electric buses that Mahesh is manufacturing and others are manufacturing. Huge opportunity in this space of manufacturing buses, manufacturing electric cars for the consumers, for giving a better mobility experience to the consumers of India. And we really believe that the industry will move forward and manufacture more and more electric vehicles so that players like BluSmart and others will benefit. Even consumers, standalone consumers like you, can also buy electric cars.
Punit touched upon a very interesting point about consumers and their willingness to go to EVs. Just wanted to understand from you, Sameer, what does your research say about consumers' intent to go for electric?
Yeah, Nirmal, so I come across many customers and also they send me queries about their anxieties and all. Now the trend in the customers are also changing. They are not worried about the initial cost of the vehicle. They are ready to pay it. The more concern is more about the battery life, the infrastructure, the charging points. And if I am able to go from one point to the distant places, not as a small city cars, like the electric vehicles are earlier propagated. So we need cars with a higher range, like a ZS EV new one we are giving with 460 kilometers range. So that type of vehicles they are expecting more. And so primarily the consumer trend is changing and they are willing to buy more electric vehicle, provided the anxiety for the infrastructure, for facilities, for battery drainage, for the long-term warranty. Like for MG, we are giving 8-year warranty. So they are really trouble-free and they are really don't have to worry about the battery cost in these cases. And certain other technical things like in the water, in the flood, in Bombay areas, what will happen. So all these are IP67 protected. As long as you drive carefully, slowly, there's nothing going to happen. We can ensure.
Right. Mahesh, when it comes to your interaction with consumers, do you think that consumers are now perceiving EV as yesterday's tech?
Yeah. So in my last 8 years of experience, Nirmal, I have seen a shift in thought process of the consumers. At the initial days, availability of charging and range was a concern. I think slowly, when you look at how it has transitioned, I think now the guys or the consumers are looking at a long life of batteries. What will happen after 10 years? By and large, the range is kind of addressed to a reasonable extent. And with the amount of charging stations coming in, it is picking up more. Safety is one of the issues which people are come up in mind, so which we need to keep in mind. But the segments are varying. For example, we talked about personal cars. This is like that. In the commercial space, let's look at three-wheelers. Let's look at buses and other areas. People look at long life more because, as Sameer said, slowly in the commercial space, they just don't look at initial cost of acquisition. The total cost of ownership is more important. So we focus on making total cost of ownership. Okay, Punit knows it. We did it in the commercial four-wheeler cars. Then I was lucky to work in the three-wheeler. Now I'm working on the bus segment. All these commercial segment makes EV much, much better. I always say there is a triple whammy. If you put an electric vehicle in a commercial application, it runs more and hence it becomes economical for the operator or a buyer because the operating cost is lower.
Right.
The second one is you reduce oil import because they consume more oil because every day they are running more. The third is the pollution you have removed so much. And just assume you are replacing all the commercial vehicle in a city, the impact on the emission in the city will be much higher because they are the one who are running more. So it's a national interest, it's an economic interest, and it's a personal choice by the customer. So the commercial vehicles will have a significant impact on the impact on the society to a large. So this segment will really propel faster, and it's the need of the apart from the personal segment we talked about.
Understood. Wonderful. Punit, is that something that you've noticed also, the consumers seeing commercial experiencing EVs through commercial players like yours first, and then changing their mind and shifting their perspective?
Absolutely, like Mahesh said, that this is a play of TCO, total cost of ownership. And if you run an EV longer, your TCO gets better and better. So the longer you run an EV, your TCO keeps getting with every passing quarter, every passing year. The cost of alternate fuel is only going up. So we knew from day one, Mahesh, since his early days in EV, Sameer and myself, we know that people will shift to EV eventually because of the cost of alternate fuel is going up. But also in terms of technology, EV is a much better technology. You have lesser moving parts compared to ICs, internal combustion engine vehicles, which have more moving parts. So the maintenance cost is also higher. The maintenance cost in an EV is much lesser. That's one. In terms of technology play, now the cars are becoming digital assets. So the cars are becoming assets which are software, they're software on wheels. And with electric mobility, the life of the asset also becomes longer because the cars are built to last for 8 years. MG has these beautiful cars, which are like, they call them like internet on wheels and all that. So you see with every passing year, we will see cars which will have longer range, the cars which will have longer build to last. At the same time, there's a life one and life two also in perspective. You can change the battery after life one, and then you have life two. In case of IC cars, they are junk. They are a total sunk cost after life one. You have to kind of discard them. But in case of EVs, we see in Tesla, we see overseas, so many models are there. We took test drive of so many cars, and we saw that there is a life two also there, which means that life one plus life two, your TCO further gets lower. So there is significant TCO advantage with two lives involved. And even in the first life for transportation platforms, standalone transportation platforms like BluSmart, it makes sense, or other ride-hailing platforms or public transportation platforms, it makes sense to fully shift to EVs.
I just wanted to understand, there is a need to educate users of EVs on the differences of living with an EV, on route planning, for example, right now. How is MG going about these things?
Yeah. So Nirmal, thanks. And also Punit put a very good light on second life and other things, what we have already tied up with many companies for that now. And coming to your question, there are now users who are already environmental conscious, who are young and generation like you, and who are already using two-wheelers, for example, with the swappable battery and other things. So they know about EV. They are all aware about EV. And then there is a second set of people who are, new to this EV concept. They have a lot of anxieties. And for this, MG has spread out all the education among dealers. I myself lead an education program within engineering in MG, within all over the company, for more than 2,000 people. And we teach them from what is the difference from ICE to EV, and how this transition is going to happen, and how the technology is changing. And as Punit also mentioned, the number of parts are going to be decreased a lot, but there's a lot of electronics involved. There's a lot of safety systems involved. And we are trying to coach them for all these things. how a battery system is having a triple structure system in the car, for example. So all these things are, this educational setup, we are not only doing within MG, we are now spreading it across through internet and other to the dealerships and our principals, so that they can also give it to the customers who are trying to use the EV first time, but they have a lot of cautions in their mind. So we create manuals, we create trainings. But as you said rightly, the young generation is catching up very fast, and they are owning, two-wheelers, and it is great to see this
Right.
gap. I mean,
Uh,
this gap bridging up.
Right. Now we'll shift focus into the job sector, right? I think the internal combustion engine vehicle has been one of the primary drivers of job creation over the last, I don't know, 120, 150 years, essentially, right? I just wanted to understand, will EVs be a net job creator, Mahesh?
Yeah. So, Nimal, we'll have to see the sector, automotive sector in India. Automotive sector in India is about 4.8 lakh crores, and it's about 7.5% of the GDP contribution to the manufacturing sector. About 37 million people work in the auto sector. There is a study saying that we will add about 10 million by 2030 by EV. Now, will it be the same skills? I don't believe it will be the same skill. There will be new set of skills like motors, power electronics. Incidentally, India is IT capital. So basically, EV is nothing but drive-by-wire and a lot of microprocessor and chips with software controlling almost completely every battery, motor, and the wheels together. So the set of competencies and skills will shift from let's say connecting rods and pistons and combustion to a battery and chemistry and power electronics. Now, we will have to look at different stages. So at one stage, India is at a very nascent stage of adoption on, let's say, cars. We have about 22 cars per thousand when compared to about 600, 700 cars in Europe adoption. So we are at a very low scale of adoption. So when the adoption happens, we can do it directly with the new technology like EV, and hence we have upside to it. The downside to it is we need to look at how the existing force or the workforce can be reskilled and readapted into the new age technologies. And that is going to take a little bit of work from academic universities, industry, and even government. We are talking about how skill development and transition can be made smoothened by collaboration between the government, industry, and the academia. I think we need to play a role as a lead industrialist to make sure this transition is less painful, at the same time creates new jobs. I also believe Indian auto industry itself is a tipping point for export. India is giving a huge impetus on export, not only for auto industry, let's say agriculture, everything, defense, and many more sectors. And I believe in this transition to electric, India should not be looking at only addressing Indian market, but there is a huge potential to export to Europe with all the geopolitics, what's happening, and what we are doing free trade agreements with Australia, with UAE, and many more, and I'm sure UK and Europe is on the pipeline. We'll have to look at a huge opportunity of manufacturing and creating IPRs from India and exporting to Europe, Australia, and many other countries. I think that will create additional huge potential for our talent to get deployed over a period of time.
Right. Punit, I'm curious, how are you seeing this, because you essentially offer services on top of the electric vehicle ecosystem, right? So how are you seeing the job creation, the potential of electric vehicles here?
We're creating massive job opportunities enabled for driver partners. Today, we have the largest fully electric ride-hailing fleet in India of 1,800 cars. So we are giving job opportunities to 3,000 drivers. We are creating inclusive and equitable economic opportunities for driver partners who can drive without the stress of asset ownership. Our business model is based on Wilfredo Pareto's principle. We don't allow drivers to own assets and bring the car on the table to earn from it. We fundamentally believe in India, like Mahesh rightly said, less than 3% Indian owns four-wheelers. So it is not the skill set of the driver to purchase a car and bring on the table to earn from it. We fundamentally believe that the core skill set of the driver is to drive with a capital D. So we bring the cars from global DFIs, the development financial institutions. They buy these cars and lease it to BluSmart. BluSmart then creates equitable opportunities for men and women to come forward, drive the car, earn a good income, more than what they were earning on the other incumbents platforms without the stress of asset ownership. So today, we are creating job opportunities for 3,000, 3,500 drivers. Tomorrow, when we scale to about 4,000 cars, 4,500 cars, with new cars coming from Tata, from MG and from BYD and others, we'll be able to create job opportunities for 10,000 drivers. And that number will only improve with each passing quarter, with each passing year. But what we're trying to do is that the driver should not be stressed. The driver should stick to their core skill set of driving and also earn decently and much more than what they're earning on the other incumbent platforms. That's what we're trying to do from our side.
Right. Sameer, just wanted a perspective from you on this, because, how should, primarily internal combustion engine focused companies shift and reskill towards an EV future?
Yeah, Nirmal. So I will fundamentally focus on the skill gap at the very basic level right directly from the engineering colleges. We don't have these skilled engineers of electric vehicles currently, because there is no curriculum for electric vehicle in the colleges. Right now also you can see I'm sitting in LD Engineering College, and we are donating the vehicles. We are tying up them with the electric vehicle courses and things from our experts. So that skill gap we are doing all across Gujarat right now with 8 or 10 colleges. And also we are trying to build up a skill force right from the colleges, so that when they come to industry, not only to our industry, to any industry in India, Tata, Mahindra or anywhere, they are already knowledgeable about these systems. They know what electric vehicle is, because there is a huge gap between the academic and the automotive industry. And when these students comes to the college, the industry for job, they found internet cars, they found electric cars, IoT, connected, all these, so that they found themselves lost in 1 or 2 years. So this is our endeavor. We have created many programs like MG Nurture for the students for having an internship. We have created EVpedia for spreading the EV education all across these things, as well as in our industry also. When we take the engineers, we train them for at least 1 or 2 years. Just for your example, like 2 years back, it was such a shortage. We have also read an article in Economic Times. There are no electric vehicle engineers available all across India. And that time I launched first JADAS EV with our GET from an engineering college. And with that GT alone, with no background of mine in the electric vehicle, I launched the first JADAS EV with help of our SAIC partners. So that was the time in 2019. But now slowly 2020, 21, we hired more experts from different industries. And now they are tuned to cars because they come from different backgrounds.
Right,
so
right.
That's the skill gap you can understand. We
Absolutely.
are fixing.
From what I'm hearing, the salaries have been multiplying also in the electric vehicle segment.
Sorry?
The salaries have been multiplying also.
Yes, it is multiplying. People are also leaving for different jobs. They get trained and they get jobs abroad very easily. They are going to Australia, they are going to Germany, they are going to different countries from our company within 2 years of experience. Right. So a lot of my engineers and managers are currently in Germany, US and Australia.
Right. Mahesh, I'm curious about, how engineering colleges and polytechnics should look at adapting their curriculum to suit the needs of manufacturers and the entire EV ecosystem. As somebody who's been doing this for a while, I thought that you'll have a unique perspective on, what exactly needs to be done in terms of adapting courses that are already there
Yeah.
to suit the needs?
See, currently, what they teach and what I understand from them is there's a minor elective for electric vehicles because that's a part of electrical engineering department, and where they teach just the basics of electric vehicle, not the systems of EV car as such. So the students have to go more deep into the car systems and understand how the vehicle architecture is there. So let's say if we take the Mahindra and Tata cars, which were converted from IC to electric vehicle, it has got our own technology and safety systems. So all this the students have to learn. But then we have also the cars like Nissan and from MG and all, which are developed electric vehicle, just like Tesla.
Right.
So that platform wholly the students have to see where these vehicle architecture is there, where is motor is placed, where is battery is placed, how the packaging is done, how the high voltage battery is there at the bottom of the car. All those things, ground clearance is very important in India because of high speed bumps.
Right.
So all this we need to incorporate into the courses for making them more practical engineers. And definitely the electric circuits and all, it is very important.
Right. Mahesh, would you like to add your perspective?
Yeah. So, Nimal, what I see on difference between IC and EV is definitely industry and academia has to cooperate and develop skills. What I saw in the past few years is IITs, many engineering colleges have started an multi-functional or multi-skill curriculum, which will build engineers towards electric mobility. The most important thing is going forward, most of the technologies are not single domain. I think it is important that we have multi-domain team consisting of software, embedded system, mechanical engineering, and let's say about these skills needs to work together. I think India needs, and you can't be master of everything. So we'll have to build a team of different competencies in the industry. And then build the team of electric vehicles. So when you say electric vehicle curriculum, then taking only electronics engineers or software engineers alone will not help. You have to build a multi-dimensional aspect of students who will be skilled enough to come and take some competence areas deep into it. The bigger challenge is this: when you have multi-skill competency people in a different, the auto industry has to be open enough to address their different needs. For example, if I have to take a software engineer, his expectation, his or her expectation in software on the type of office, type of compensation, and type of, let's say, work-life balance or things like that is completely different from engineer who is doing a body or a trim or something. So the EV in the EV domain has actually put a challenge to the industry, how to accommodate and how to be flexible enough in accommodating multi-skills and addressing their aspirational needs. So this industry has to do in conjunction with the academia, and how do we build competency around academia in this?
Right, right. Punit, just wanted to understand, what is the role of shared mobility in all of this? I mean, in terms of making sure that there is job creation, in making sure that there is a higher level of understanding of what goes into electric mobility. What is the role of players like yours in this job creation work?
I think ride-hailing platforms like BluSmart have a massive role and responsibility in creating job opportunities for this new decade. While the last decade saw a lot of driver partners buying these CNG cars in the circa of 2012, 2013, 14 to 2018, we saw thousands of drivers becoming micro entrepreneurs and purchasing these $10,000 cars over that decade. But now, as the cost of alternate fuel has substantially gone up, CNG, petrol, diesel continues to go up, the cost of automobile financing for these driver partners have also really shot up. The cost of ICs also have increased. The cars which were available for $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 today the cost of those cars with BS6 coming in also has gone up. We see now the new decade. In this new decade, the drivers are not keen to buy cars anymore. And especially after COVID pandemic hit, the COVID pandemic events 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, thousands of drivers had to surrender the cars and give it back to the automobile, leasing companies or financing companies, because they could not pay the EMIs. What India went through, no other country went through, because India did not have the Airbnb of mobility concept. People were buying cars to drive on the taxi platforms or the other ride hailing platforms. So we are seeing a massive shift in this new decade. And with our business model, we are encouraging drivers to stick to their core skill sets, where as a platform, BluSmart does the entire platform work, creating charging infra, bringing electric cars, creating the entire paraphernalia. And a driver needs to be a gig worker who can earn the same amount what they were earning as a micro entrepreneur on other platforms, now has a good or a better quality of life. So we are creating thousands of drivers today are leaving the other incumbent platforms and joining BluSmart because they are getting the entire EV ecosystem approach. And we are looking as a public transportation service from the entire EV ecosystem angle, because mobility play itself standalone doesn't make sense if you don't have control over charging infra. And if a standalone charging infra company, you are never going to make money because you have no visibility on the number of electric cars. Till you do not complete the entire EV ecosystem challenge, you are not going to address any of the challenges which are out there. So we thought that this is a great opportunity to create job opportunities for people who are setting up charging infra, people who are obviously team members of BluSmart, but thousands of jobs, direct jobs will be created on the consumer front, which is where consumer sits in a car and a driver drives that car. So that is where we see role of BluSmart and other platforms who are maybe coming up or maybe in the planning stage to come forward and create shared mobility. And like Mahesh also said, India owns the least number of four-wheelers in India. India has the lowest number of four-wheelers in the world. If you see China, it's got 275 cars per 1,000 people. India has 30 cars per 1,000 people. So we'll see the role of shared mobility, public transportation platform like BluSmart or the Switch Mobility manufacturing electric buses. So use of electric buses, use of electric cars will drive the economy forward, and obviously in the shared manner.
Right, wonderful. One last question to all the panelists. What needs to happen, especially from a policy standpoint, to make electric mobility a net job creator?
Policy is very important, and we have been talking with government and many agencies since like 5 years actually. And many forums when I go, there's Renault, Nissan CEO and many other people, they are asking what is the roadmap of government, and that is not very clear, although the statements keeps on coming about the policies and all. So this is very important, the policies in place and implementation. There's a lot of government subsidies coming from different states. FAME 2 is there for certain segment, but now PLI scheme has come out for the all the OEMs and other non-OEMs, but need to be expedited and really thrust on this policy part. Secondly, the land for EVs. So we need manufacturing zones, special manufacturing zones for EVs, because this has certain requirements, especially the battery manufacturing. As you have seen, Maruti now putting tens of thousands of crores for the only battery manufacturing in Gujarat. So all these things require, a lot of availability of easy availability of land and taxes. And then we need some special incubation centers for like nurturing the programs, startups in these areas, and basically promoting with the exemption of taxes and for the e-rickshaw, e-carts, two-wheelers, all this. This year, we had a good growth in two-wheelers at 400%, but this need to continue at multifold. Then we will reach to the China stage where there are 99-95% two-wheelers are electric vehicles.
Right.
Constitutes in the economy if comes with the whole thrust. I believe by 25-27 you will see starting the landscape changing, just like we see mobile suddenly came in India in 2010 and beyond. And before that there was no mobiles. We are all talking on landline. So all this is going to happen, and certainly I agreed with Mahesh ji and Punit. It requires a sea change in all these policies and infrastructure as well.
Mahesh, the same question to you. I think it's important to understand it from a job creation perspective as well. What is it that from policy point of view that the government needs to do to make this shift, a net job creator?
Yeah, I'll come to that, but just let's understand what's happening in EV industry. I think which is unprecedented and I have not seen in my life, and even my predecessors have said they have not seen in their life before, how government is supporting EV industry. Let's look at what's happening. Today we have a PLI scheme for automobile, which is about 25,000 or 26,000 crore. We have a PLI for advanced chemistry cell, which is about 18,000 crore. There is a PLI for semiconductor, which is 76,000 crore, and the FAME scheme is about 10,000 crore. So government has never ever in the last, after independence, worked with such a support to create manufacturing in India, to create jobs for actual industry, to get into this sector. Typically, industry is not being supported such a long time, but what's happening is a huge impetus and focus is coming from industry, from a government perspective, to support the industry, to create jobs and make in India and create IPR in India is going. So consequent to this, what happened in EV industry has been investing about close to $14 to $15 billion in EV alone, and to create a robust infrastructure. We are talking about even startups, about it's on the highest investments happening in EV sector to the tune of 400 million last year. And there is a lot of things happening around. Now, what it will create? It will create economic activity. When economic activity grows up and the manufacturing goes up, it creates job directly or indirectly. What else can be done? What else? I think to me, we are looking at make in India and supplying in India. I think let's look at the battery requirement of Europe alone. Let's look at the phase in which Europe is converting to electric, and by 2030 they may need more than 1,500 gigawatt hour of battery to meet all the European car manufacturing target which they have set. And they are have a plans to install, let's say, 800 to 900 gigawatt hour. So 600 to 700 gigawatt hour, or even if that can be exceeded, almost 1,000 gigawatt hour of battery has to be imported to Europe. Why would India not take this opportunity? We are good at softwares, we are good at embedded systems. Why can't all the power electronics can be sent from India? So if we can have a clear focus, which I'm seeing from Piyush Goyal ji, is giving a high focus on export. If that export focus is shifted towards EV, I think we will have a very robust job creation here, more than what can be done if we can focus a little bit more than what it is. Having said that, I've said there are a lot of things done by government on policy for domestic. I'm only adding to saying that if anything more can be done to look at globe as a market, not just India as a market, then we'll completely excel and become the second largest EV producer in the world, next to China, obviously, if we focus on that.
Right. Punit, any last comments in terms of policy interventions?
I think like Mahesh said, and Sameer also said, future is electric. I think everybody understands it, and we need to move forward aggressively as everybody, the stakeholder, manufacturers, or ride-hailing platforms like BluSmart, government. I think everybody is doing their bit. I think we have to go really, really more aggressive. India's import bill has shot up from $60 billion to $100 billion. That will keep going up if we don't shift to electric faster. So the time has come, and we fundamentally believe that we are going to see sweeping changes now, like Mahesh pointed out. The time has come for the industry to move forward and completely go fully electric.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for your time, all the panelists. I think it's been a productive conversation in which a lot of interesting perspectives were packed. So thank you for your time. All right, that's a wrap on the conversation. I think what is clear is that the shift to EV mobility, electric mobility, is here and is real. I think that's something that all the three panelists have mentioned and reiterated. What is also clear is that there is much to be done in terms of job creation. As I said earlier, electric vehicles have a major role to play in a society like ours in terms of job creation, especially at a time when we are one of the youngest workforces in the world, which is where it's important for engineering colleges, for example, to come in and do an intervention, adapt their curriculum to suit the needs of the EV ecosystem. I think that's an important takeaway from today's conversation. Along with that, I think the government itself needs to accelerate some of the electric vehicle push that it is already onto. Along both of these things put together, I think we will be able to have a bright future both on the road and off it in terms of job creation. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.